really miss high school. Because going to college is kind of like going to jail, you know? You're assigned a roommate, the food sucks, except you have to bring your own stuff to college. Carleton's pretty nice, I guess, but you don't really get the same drama and pathos as you do in a public high school. Some of you might not be able to relate, since I feel like a lot of you guys went to private school. I don't know, for some reason. And going to private school generally means you're either Catholic, rich, or both. I miss the kids who would just scream outside of random classrooms. That was the music of my teenage years. Maybe they've graduated to screaming outside of workplaces by now, I don't really know. I wish that throwing a chair at a teacher was still an option. It was never encouraged, but always an option. I miss the guy who one time came into my theater classroom just to sneeze. And then left. It was a far more insightful moment of theater than anything we actually produced in that class. I miss the people who used to film fights. They deserved a Pulitzer Prize. Those videos were passed around faster than any information I've ever seen. They were distributed to the whole school within a day. They were always blurry and upside down, but by God, they were there. When they lacked in cinematography, they more than made up for in material. They work harder than any New York Times journalist. If those were the people in charge of getting us vaccinated, we wouldn't have had the Delta variant. Now, I don't miss how teachers used to make us do Socratic seminars. They forget that we killed that guy for a reason. I also always hated this one class called Take Charge. It was like a financial literacy class where you learned how to do your taxes or whatever. But my teacher would always use one of her kids as a positive example, and the other as a negative one. It was like Goofus and Gallant, but infinitely more uncomfortable. She'd be like, oh, my first son went to trade school, and now he's a welder and makes a whole bunch of money and owns his own house. And my other son went to private college in Iowa to be a history teacher, and he dropped out and has a bunch of student loans. We're like, ma'am, we're 17. We learned what income tax was yesterday. We can't solve this for you. What do you suppose family Thanksgiving is like at their house? Pass the potatoes, you fiscal nightmare. My school always did donations to the blood bank. I never donated because the one time I did, I never got back any blood interest. They get really mad if you ask for your blood back. You know that like 1% of the people have 99% of the blood, right? What a racket. Another thing that I didn't like was getting catcalled. By the way, it's slightly weird that it's called catcalling. I've had several things yelled at me, but none of them were pss, 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 pss. One time a guy, as I was walking out of school carrying my viola, said, hey, what instrument is that? I said, it's a viola. And he like pauses for a second and a look of existential confusion crosses his face. And then he goes, well, I'm gonna viola you up. So this guy clearly wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's a spoon that got lost. I'm just imagining the thought process. All right, this is a 15-year-old and I'm a pervert. She's holding an instrument, maybe I can make something out of that. If it's a trombone, then that's definitely something. Because if I'm gonna get catcalled, I'd at least like the pun to be half decent. You know, the whole world of fingering was open to you. But you know, sexual harassment aside, I have a bit of a weakness for puns. Some would say that it's quibbling. But I don't use them much on stage because of something a friend said to me once. She said, Esme, the problem with you is that you make puns and you're convinced they're funny. That was the verbal equivalent of a KO in Mortal Kombat. It just ripped out the spine of my personality through my mouth. That might be the reason why I eat dinner alone a lot. I just don't want to go through the Yalta conference of trying to find a time to meet up with people every time I'm hungry. Or at least that's what I tell myself. It makes you wonder how any spy shit actually happens. I barely have time to do my laundry, let alone assassinating political leaders. But my favorite thing about eating alone is when someone will come up to a table that only has me sitting there and will go, hi, are you using these chairs for anything? I've always to say, yes, this is actually a very complicated performance art piece, and you're ruining it. So if you ever see me alone at LDC, just staring blank-eyed at mac and cheese pizza, come over and say hi.